Okay, ebusunya be mma kwa abaso so edeba POG Media so. Yede meko political highway ni so highway ni de ensem bebre wo so a yen so ya Japan se be me abedwafo no ahu de ekọ ene de eba ebusunya ma yembonwura yensem mu enwura High Court adjourne NDC ni NPP case no na ene omosan so tenase na ensem ekọ so no NDC lawyer kese wa challenge High Court ruling na abusuya enye izikra NDC High Court NDC lawyer no abusuya ono kire se omo evidence dey kra omo se High Court no omo de baby anokre ne da no omo mfa asem no ento na ensem bebre na ebubo efree ase ebae abusuya latest update we no straight from High Court so the ebrem mom yenko na yenko nkonko tie ensema ekoso no Supreme Court ankasa ekwahye case no chese omo ka kire omo se omo san so nko High Court na High Court embra no ombra mbitie omo hearing no abusu mom yenko na yenkonko tie ensema ekoso medamase.
Begin from the courts as the High Court in Akroma has dismissed a preliminary legal objection from NDC parliamentary candidates for Tema Central, A.B. Bright for Kaikwe Central, Baba Sadiq, Christopher Beyre for Techiman South, and Irabna Obeng for Ablekuma North. Against the Mandamus applications from 4 NPP parliamentary candidates, the NDC had earlier raised preliminary legal objections against 4 defective applications for Mandamus from NPP, asking the court to compel the Electoral Commission to collate and declare parliamentary election results. The court, presided over by Justice Forsen Ba Ajapong, fixed the date after hearing submissions from lawyers of the NDC, and some responded to it by the EC and the NPP side. Godwin Eduji Tamilklu, counsel for the NDC parliamentary candidates, who are the interested parties in this particular case, argued that the applications seeking to compel the EC to collate and declare elections that have already been declared is a defective and incompetent one. Our legal affairs correspondent Mutala Enusa joins us. Let's get more updates from our legal affairs correspondent, Captain Mutala Enusa. Mutala, what more can you report at this time?
Well, Ali, like you rightly mentioned, the preliminary legal objection raised by the 4 parliamentary candidates of the new NDC, I must say, A.B. Bright, Baba Sadiq, Irabna Obeng, and then Christopher Beyre, have been overruled by the court. Remember that yesterday, before the application for Mandamus seeking to compel the Electoral Commission to perform its lawful duty, the respondent, the interested party, which is the NDC side, the objection was to the effect that if you look at the nature of the Mandamus application before the court, it is one that has come by way of an election petition in disguise. Again, they are saying that the application is not competent and the jurisdiction of the court has not been invoked. They made copious references to the PNDC law, particularly with section 284, especially section 16 and 20, which talked about how elections are supposed to be organized, and whoever is aggrieved, the processes that you need to activate to be able to challenge the process. However, yesterday, the court adjourned the matter to today, and before the court adjourned the matter to today, lawyers of the applicants, that is the NPP side, also opposed to that particular objection and said that at this particular point in time, there's no resource that will be challenged. And so once they disagree with whatever election processes that were going on in the constituency, the processes to come to court is by way of judicial review in the nature of Mandamus. The EC also corroborated that. Justice Banforcing today, the only onus he had is to make a determination as to whether or not the objection should be upheld or overruled. And what the court said was that if you look at that section, the PNDC law that was quoted copiously yesterday, it was very clear that, look, until such time that the elections are gazetted, the election results are gazetted or published in the Gazette, an applicant or any party who is aggrieved can come to the court. You have other processes to come to the court for a remedy, and one of the processes is to come to court by way of a judicial review. So that particular mandamus application, which formed the basis of the objection has no merit. The parties or the applicants, that is the NPP side, are properly before the court with their application for mandamus solely because the verdict or the results of the parliamentary elections have not been published in the Gazette. Consequently, that particular objections were overruled by the court.
But in essence, what does it mean? Can anybody seek review of this ruling?
So what it means is that now the way is clear for the substantive matter, which is the mandamus application, to be heard. Before I came out to engage you, lawyer Gary Nimakun was on his feet, and he picked out the Tema Central constituency where E.B. Bright and Charles Forson are having issue. And I said, look, the order should be on the Electoral Commission and also to the IGP. The Electoral Commission, because it is the body mandated to conduct election, collate and declare the results. So they should collect all the constituency results and declare who the winner really is in relation to that constituency. So that is the argument that lawyer Gary Nimakun was making just before I came out here to engage you. And like you mentioned, it's going to be a very long day because they have made that indication to the court that they are going to move the applications one after the other because some of them have their unique issues, and that will have to be highlighted. The NDC side have also made it clear to the court that they will also want to deal with their issues one after the other. They have some videos that show declarations being made by the EC's returning officer, and then they want to bring to their attention all these instances for the court to make a determination of that. But one interesting thing, Lily, is that the court is saying that whichever way the parties decide to argue their case in court, the court is willing and prepared to have them go the way they want. But ultimately, the court will have to hear all of them and at the end make a determination as to whether or not the mandamus application now, which is being heard, should succeed or not.
But Murtala, I want you to give us a bit of education. I'm sure viewers listening are hearing mandamus application and they're wondering, what really do you mean by that?
So what exactly it means by a mandamus application is that, first of all, what one needs to understand is that what is the function of the Electoral Commission, and per the law, the Electoral Commission is the body that is mandated to organize an election in this country. Once they organize the election, they need to collate and declare who the winner is. That is a constitutional duty. So what the applicant is coming to court by way of mandamus is that, yes, we know that the EC has to perform all these functions as we speak, that those constituencies are hanging, the elections have not been collated, winners have not been declared. So compel them to perform their public function. So it is an application seeking to compel or seeking to demand that the EC will go ahead or force the EC to go ahead to collect and declare winners of those constituencies. So basically, a mandamus application is that you are coming to the court for the court to compel a public institution or a public institution, of course, to perform its public function in respect of a public duty.
But Murtala, in all of this, was the courtroom packed? What was the reaction of parties involved, especially from the NDC side?
Of course, Lily, it's been a very packed courtroom, like yesterday we reported, but you can see that per the numbers yesterday, a lot of people were allowed into the courtroom. This time around, you see a couple of them outside, because of the arrangement that have been made. The people you see in the courtroom today, most of them have to be lawyers, most of them have to be the individual parliamentary candidate, and then they are constituency executive, and of course the media who are fairly represented. And of course, we do not have official reactions yet in relation to the objection that have been overruled, because immediately that happened, the substantive matter ought to be called for the court to deal with it. But a couple of them are outside here having conversations with themselves and hoping that at the end of the day, something very productive will come their way, by being with the NDC or being with the MPP. But what is clear now is that the court now is hearing that mandamus application, a request seeking to compel the Electoral Commission to go and collate and declare winners. But as to whether the court will grant that, at the end of the day, that will be made clear.
Absolutely, and we'll tell our viewers when that is made clear. Thank you very much. That's Murtala Inusa, is our legal affairs correspondent. Let's head to Parliament. Quite 8th Parliament, who call it the most interesting Parliament. MPs and party functionaries have intensified efforts to get their choice selected for the leadership position. Already, the Women Caucus and some other MPs belonging to the NPP are pushing for the NPP MP for Efutu Alexander Kwamena Pengomakin to be made minority leader. J1 News gathers that the lobbying for leadership position is not limited to the NPP. The NDC side are also engaged in lobbying. We've been joined in the studio by our Parliamentary Affairs correspondent and our head of political desk, Ibrahim.
Lily.
Finally, we get to say bye-bye to the 8th Parliament. It's been quite an interesting one. It started on a rather chaotic note, ended on a seemingly, but interestingly, when Parliament was rounding up after the whole election, it came back and it was peaceful. Everybody had decided that, okay, enough is enough. Let me take my respective seats anyway.
Because there was virtually nothing to fight for. So the majority had lost its majority status. It had not just lost, but it had lost with a very huge margin. The minority then, which was agitating, had then gotten what it wanted. It had won not just the presidential, but also won many more seats than it's ever happened in our history. So there was nothing to fight for again. So that's how come it was more or less like a very sober meeting the last time. Yes, but we're talking about lobbying. It's not just lobbying in Parliament. It's also lobbying outside Parliament as well for positions here and there, appointments here and there.
Especially when John Dramani Mahama had explicitly stated that, listen, I'm looking for just 60 ministers.
Exactly.
I have given Ghanaians my word. And even on 31st night, he rehashed it. I am giving Ghanaians 60 ministers, very lean government, and so the lobbying will obviously be intense.
Most definitely, and he's also indicated that, yes, God, it's also a prayer that God should give him the wisdom to select the people that will do right by, not just him, but by Ghanaians, because he doesn't have the power to enter into the hearts and the minds of his appointees.
True.
To foretell what they will do when they get into office.
So that somebody will not say, I'm looking for $1 million.
You see, or going ahead to properly look for $1 million.
Exactly. I mean, we've seen that even and then hiding some of the monies under our beds,
You see, so, and then finding problem for everybody.
So
the president.
He needs the wisdom of God. But let's look at Parliament's makeup going into the 9th Parliament. NPP, NDC side. Who is best fit to lead either of the parties?
Well,
there's Alexander Apenyomaking, who everybody thinks that is very assertive. I this morning said that, listen, I mean, he has his own flaws, but he's very assertive. He knows how to whip his people in line. He knows how to, fight for what he wants.
Exactly.
And he will be a good speaker for them when they're in the opposition, especially if they have to, for want of a better term, hustle government.
Yeah, most definitely. And so, in fact, this crusade was even started by the NDC side, Ahmed Ibrahim. I had an engagement with him, and he had indicated that Alexander Kwamena is a born opposition leader. So who best to lead the NPP charges from opposition than him? And then, of course, Joseph Osei, the first deputy speaker, outgoing member of parliament for Bekwai, equally publicly stating that he will wish that the party maintained Alexander Kwamena Afenyomakin. And then the chairman of all the parliamentary select committees addressing the media and saying same. And yesterday, the Women Caucus also saying same, but of course they tied their own in addition to Patricia Appiagyei, who is the deputy to Alexander Kwamena Afenyomakin. That given the number of women that the NPP had lost, and the fact that Patricia Appiagyei is going on her 5th term as a member of parliament, they will wish that she's
she stands as a leader then.
Exactly. And then she's equally a leader for the Women Caucus. And so in her maintenance, they equally want Afenyomakin, the Women Caucus, are maintained as well. I guess, Lily, that particular decision will be made tomorrow. by the National Council of the NPP, and it's actually going to be by voting. So the council members will vote.
That's quite an interesting one.
Yeah.
And given the humongous, monumental defeat of the NPP in the just ended election, will it be, quote unquote, a wise decision to maintain Appenyo marking, knowing very well that he led his party to opposition?
Well, and the counter argument is that then all the national executive, including the council, national council members, right, might equally be bidding goodbye to their portfolios because
I think so too. I think the current crop of leadership of the NPP has done the party a disservice, and so they must all go.
Yes, of course, and then that's one campaign message that will come up strongly when the party goes for its internal election. Nonetheless, so tomorrow when they meet the voting, there are names that have come up.
Okay, who?
Akroma's name is up there as well. The member of Parliament.
Isn't he relatively new in Parliament?
Yes, this will be his third term. Yes, this will be his third term. That's the 9th Parliament will be his third term, right? And then also Kwame Nyimadu, member of Parliament for Asante Achim Central.
Okay, he's been there for a while. Yes.
Equally a lawyer, just like Ojo Akroma, right? And then Dominic Nitiu, the outgoing defense minister.
But at some points
he was a deputy.
Yes, he was a deputy minority leader.
Yes. And Osei Minister.
Yes.
Yes. And so his name has equally come up. So these are the names that have been floated. I'll be surprised if Appenyo marking is changed, to be honest with you.
Why?
The argument and the convention for NPP has always been that you give it to somebody from the Ashanti region. Whenever the party is in opposition, it's giving the leadership to the Ashanti region because it commands majority of the seats. So regardless of the inroads the NDC made in the Ashanti region, if you look at the performance of the NPP across the 16 regions, the Ashanti region still has majority of the seats belonging to the NPP. And so they should have a bigger say as who leads them. So it had always been Osei Mensah Bonsu as minority leader and somebody supporting in opposition. Now, with the current crop of MPs from the Ashanti region, I mentioned Anyimadu Entry. If you take out Anyimadu Entry, there are many others who could not get the opportunity to return. Katie Hammond and many others, right? So aside Anyimadu
who have the experience.
Exactly. There's virtually nobody else that you can place a finger on. Now, if you come to Appenyo Markin's backyard, the central region, the NPP now has just 3 seats in the 9th Parliament. So the argument will be that, okay, as you mentioned, if you're unable to get the party more seats, but then again, which other region gave the party more seats? Western region, 2 seats. Will you blame Appenyo Markin for that as well? No. Eastern region, for the presidential election result, almost 50-50. Greater Accra, in fact, the party is still fighting. But in fact,
they are still fighting for Kaikwe Central, Tema Central, and Ablekuma North.
Exactly. And that's why the supporters or the crusaders for Appenyo Markin argue that, see, there was a wave that blew, and that green wave actually blew across the country. So you cannot blame anybody for the failures of the party at the parliamentary level. So, yes, tomorrow, the council is meeting. So far, the crusade has always been in support of Appenyo Markin being retained. There's one inevitable change, of course. That's Alex Jenebu Atete. He lost his seat. He's the deputy whip. He lost his seat, Sevilla Contombra. So therefore, he will have to exit. So the party will have to find a replacement.
But for that of the NDC side, I'm wondering who becomes majority leader.
Well, the incoming president, during one of the meeting, the transition committee meeting, had mentioned that Dr. Kisela Tofosen will be majority leader. But he quickly had to swallow back his words and say that, yes, he is here to make that determination. But of course...
does it mean that the much speculated finance minister slot will not go?
Well, the names are there. So Setepe's name is there. Of course, like you mentioned, Dr. Kisela Tofosen's name is there. Isahaku, the former Bank of Ghana governor, his name is equally there. So chances are you have one of the three being. But if you go to the minority bench today, which will then be majority bench in Parliament, right? If Atofosen is not maintained, there are names like Muntaka Mubarak, the immediate past minority whip, that he could equally be in a position to be the majority leader among others. And of course, not just that, there's a speaker, there's a first deputy speaker.
That is what I'm particularly interested in, but unfortunately we don't have a lot of time, so we'll leave it here for now. Let me talk about something else which is quite interesting. Since we're talking about the NDC, the running mate for the Convention People's Party in the just ended general elections, Wayo Ganamanti, has expressed strong reservations about the NDC marking 31st December as a national celebration. Wayo Ganamanti questions the relevance of commemorating this day, especially considering its historical context and the need for national unity. To understand his position and why he disagrees with this move, he joins us via phone. Good morning to you, Cecil. Good morning, and a happy New Year to you.
Good morning, and happy New Year to all of you.
High Court, I just say NDC lawyers no, or more challenge High Court judges no, all because of say person say omukra evidence via videos so via say electoral commission no omo declare NDC as winner dada enye afeina say omo ba be bibi foforo bia intino High Court no emfa pressure emma electoral commission say on declare omo NDC no win abusu we ne enseme course e bedam say mo je pene kokoti sa audio we edimai aha POG Media so bedam say